You can just do it.
Okay.
Just talk to me.
Great.
Pull your mic a little bit closer to you, actually.
Yeah. Great.
Gorgeous. Beautiful. Stunning.
Love it.
Welcome to the latest episode of Authenticated with your host, Kate McLeod. I am intrigued by people. People watching, I love. People learning, that's where I'm insatiably curious. I'm interested in the why and how of the creative mind's pattern of thinking, the subtext to the creative thinker, or in its more conscious and malleable form, the creative conscious. Because when you are so clear on yourself via the triad of consciousnesses, then you become reflective to others. Meeting yourself is an infectious practice because what feels good is infectious and something I think we could all use a good dose of. So join me in conversations with a diverse arsenal of creative thinkers, from artists to entrepreneurs to serial thinkers ready to optimize their creative conscious. With me, self-made and self-proclaimed creative entrepreneur. Sounds hot, right? David Mattar Merten, welcome to Authenticated.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
You're having such a fun ride right now in your show.
Yeah.
Richard.
Yeah, Richard II with Red Bull. We're off Broadway at the Astor Place Theater.
When you are having moments like this, has it started to feel like work yet, or is it still dream coming true, happening in real time kind of moment?
I think it comes and goes in flashes. I think there's days where I'm reminded of like how much of a dream come true this all is. And then there's days where the sort of romanticism is lost and I feel tired or I feel not in the right headspace or I'm not sure if I can produce sound or emotion or energy in the way that I would like to in my dream world. Sometimes for reasons that I call prison of my own creation, like I stayed up too late or I whatever, or reasons like the weather or something happens in my life, etc. And those are moments where I lean into like training, craft, if you can call it that without rolling your eyes, you know, and that's when I lean into it feeling a little bit more like a job, which is okay. And I think that's when I'm actually reminded that I'm doing what I want to be doing, because even when it feels like a slog, it still feels right, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And then there's moments where I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful. And 12-year-old me is freaking out. And I'm working with these actors like Michael Urie and Ryan Spahn and Grantham Coleman and Catherine Misley and Ron Canada and all these amazing people in past shows too that I've worked with. And it's those moments that I'm like, oh my gosh, I pinch myself. So I think it's a roller coaster of both.
The arts is the best play ever. No one is an actor and like, oh, I hate being here. I can't believe I had to do this and this sucks.
Right.
But it is this juxtaposition of it is a job and there are hours and they are sluggish hours, especially for theater.
Yeah, and in theater, we really don't get paid enough.
No,
for the
full
most part.
stop.
A Broadway salary is great, but it's also not. You'd make more working in an office. Do it because you love it. And working off Broadway is a passion project.
Art is a passion project until you get to that point when you get to make it other people's passion projects come true. One of the reasons I reached out to you is I'm so curious about this idea, talking about measuring backwards with you. So you and I met
I think it was, like 2022.
somewhere around there.
Or 2023. I think
2023, yeah. But your presence struck me where I was like, oof. I was like, this is a room that can feel your whole energy. And that's so like generous and sharing. And you are such a gorgeous artist. And you were such a nice person. And your career really picked up a lot of steam after I met you there. And I've been watching, and you've been working with so many prolific, contemporary, relevant artists. And I just want to know what happens for you when I say like, you're at this point now. What does measuring backwards mean to you?
I tend to be, unfortunately, a little bit of a glass half empty person when it comes to looking at my goals.
Okay.
I'm not always amazing at taking stock of accomplishments. I'm always like a look ahead person. My partner jokes that I'm always like, I'm great at getting the job. I'm less good at having the job because I'm always like looking ahead, which can be good or maybe not bad, but tricky. And so looking backwards is really useful to me, and it reminds me of all the work I've put in and all the good fortune I've had and time meeting opportunity, grabbing at the chance, if that makes sense, or acting at the right moment. And so, I think I met you right before I did An Enemy of the People, the revival with Jeremy Strong and Michael Imperioli and a bunch of other great artists, Victoria Pedretti, and that Sam Gold directed at Circle in the Square. And I did that, and then I went from that into a play off Broadway with Kate Mulgrew. And then I did a bunch of amazing workshops with a bunch of amazing people. And then this summer I did a play with Robert O'Hara by Tennessee Williams at Williamstown Theater Festival with Chris Messina, Will Jackson Harper, Elizabeth Lale, amazing actors. And we were also with Jeremy O'Harris was there and a bunch of amazing artists. And then, now I'm doing Richard II with Michael Urie. So all that to say, for those watching at home, if you're not familiar with my work, which I totally understand, it's been a really interesting journey. And somebody once told me, like, work begets work, follow the work, which I think is true. And a lot of those opportunities have come from other opportunities. And especially Broadway, a play at Williamstown this summer, was actually ultimately accomplished by a not fully frigid, but a semi-cold email.
Really?
Yeah.
Say more.
Enemy of the People I'd spoken about, I saw the breakdown and I spoke about it with my managers who are lovely. And I had just gotten out of my MFA program at Brown University, Brown Trinity. It just finished there and it was fall after graduating, and I had done a regional production of Cabaret, which was like amazing and lovely, and I had some auditions, but it was right after the writer's strike. A lot of my meetings post grad school went cold. I had a bunch of really great meetings with heads of casting and networks, and a lot of those people lost their jobs right after I met with them.
God.
And the agency I met with, who was really interested, a few weeks later, like, actually, this is not going to be able to happen in this moment, because we're really limited with who we can take on right now because of the strike. And so I sort of was like, okay. And I signed with this really lovely manager that I'm still with, CLA. So I had spoken to them about An Enemy of the People. And I was like, I'd love to go in for this show. And they were like, yeah, let's see. We don't know what roles you're going to offer, what it's going to look like yet. And I think it just a little bit got lost in the shuffle. They have a lot of actors. That's why they get 10%, because 90% of it comes from us. So it was my job to keep an eye on it. And I did. And I heard through a friend, oh, my friend just got this amazing audition for this Broadway revival they're doing. And I was like...
And you're like, say the name.
Oh my gosh. And they were like, it's An Enemy of the People. And I was like, why have I not gotten a tape for that? Ugh, I should have followed up again. I should have done... I wish I was further along. And I had a moment where I like pouted. And then I was like, okay, wait. I've met Taylor Williams, amazing casting director. I've met her. I have her email. I'm not sure she knows who I am. She's not very familiar with my work, but she knows my email. So I was like, I have it. It wouldn't be totally bizarre for me to maybe email her. And I emailed her and I was like, hey, I'm hoping I'm catching you in the midst of casting this. I'd love to be seen for a cover for anybody. And she responded immediately and was like, hi, David. Yes, so glad you reached out again. I would love for you to tape. I just need it by like tomorrow morning. Sorry for the quick turnaround, but it's like happening now. Like I'd clearly caught her kind of in the 11th hour. And I sent it to my managers and they were like, okay, great, let's do this. And I sent in the tape and I sent it away the next day and got it on tape. And it was for a role. It wasn't even for a cover. And I was gassed up by that. And the next morning I woke up and I had sent her a thank you email. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it. And she emailed me the next morning at 6 a.m. It's very early. And she was like, I'm so sorry for the early email. Yes, received the tape. I actually really loved it. And I've been really juggling to try to see if I can get you into callbacks, which are today with Sam Gold. And I'd love for you to come in if there's any world where you can come in this afternoon. I had somebody cancel, so there's a space for you. Can you come into callbacks? All you have to do is what you did on tape. Just those two scenes. Can you come? And I was like, yes. I was lucky that I was able to move my life around a little bit. And I went in and then 2 days later I had a final callback and then I got it. And so it was a very short span. And I ended up booking an onstage cover for the role that I went in for. So I was in callbacks for this role and then I booked an ensemble track that covered that role as well. So all that to say is if I hadn't sent the email, and I've talked to Taylor about it since, and she's, I'm so glad you emailed me. Because, and the same thing happened with Williamstown. I wasn't uber familiar with the casting directors that were casting for Williamstown. And I went to Robert O'Hara's website and sent him an email about like why I was interested in the project and what I thought. And then it ended up coming to fruition. Opportunity meeting, preparation meeting, the right thing. Because sometimes you ask for something and they're like, you're not right for this. And that's okay too. But sometimes you are right for it and they just have a lot in front of them and you might get lost in the shuffle otherwise.
But also friction causing action, which is great. You're upset, like, what?
Yeah.
So you could have sat and stewed in that, which if I'm being completely blunt and honest, most artists do.
Yeah, and I certainly had, my husband can attest, I definitely had an hour where I was like ranting and raving a little bit.
Which
like, the world hates me and I hate the world. Totally.
Which you have that moment. But then from there, what are you going to do to fix it? Because that's my main thing. You can complain about whatever you want.
We like to blame our reps, and we like to, but I was like, ultimately, they have a lot going on. They have a lot they're doing, and they are pushing me. They do send the email, but sometimes a personal ask helps.
I also genuinely believe, because I want to be the best at what I can do, I genuinely believe everybody else wants to too.
Absolutely.
So she forgot, sure, but she is literally like, thank you for that reminder. Because guess what? Even casting directors, even reps, even actors get overwhelmed like all of us do. Think about that. Think about how many times you forget someone's name or whatever. I just think it's human. But when it comes to the gatekeepers, for lack of a better word or whatever, there's no allotment for understanding.
Yeah. And my experience is that most reps, most casting directors, they want to help actors.
Yeah, they like them.
I think it's a common myth that like they're against us, rooting for our downfall. But really, in my experience, 9.5 times out of 10, that's not true. A lot of artists look to them for help, for answers. And they're like, I'm also looking for, I've had casting directors who are like, I'm also looking for work. And I'm like, well, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so knowing that we're all in this journey together, and actually like we can help each other, and that actors are not necessarily a dime a dozen, and that maybe sometimes our superpower can be like putting ourselves out there.
Genuinely. And I think also our resilience to feedback and rejection, because it's not, I think when you say rejection, it's all negative. No, feedback is positive too.
And it can be a gift.
Absolutely.
I think it is. I always want feedback. I'm always like, I'm like, please give me a note. Please give me a chance to come through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Please let me change it or try to. That's always, I always try to, I'm like, I'm a gal who can take a note. Give it to me, please. Yeah. I want it.
I promise you, I checked my ego. It's not even here. I promise. Just tell me.
Yeah. I might have to pick it up on my way out and hold it, but I'll be okay.
Yeah. No, I'll take her to the bathhouse after. We'll do a little steam and everything and just get back in touch. But I think it is so important to be an active participant in that feedback loop too, because as we know from training or the craft or technique, there is a reason the director is there. There is a reason that you have your vantage point on your place on stage and someone else has theirs. And there's a reason producers are involved and there's a reason in casting. Everyone is entitled to an opinion for a very valid reason.
Yeah, totally.
So when you're in these rooms and you said earlier that work begets work and one thing leads to the other, what does it mean to you to be present, to be a listener, and to really be yourself in these rooms once you get into one?
Gosh, I think I'm going to take the term rooms and include it in like audition rooms, meetings and rehearsals.
I mean, all of
yeah, totally.
Presentation of self to other people.
Yeah, I mean, my brain moves really fast. I have a lot going on, and I've got ADHD, I got a little bit of dyslexia, I got it all.
You're in good company.
Yeah, right? And so I think that I have to sometimes slow my brain down and actually make sure that I'm not getting ahead of what I think I'm receiving. When it comes to a note or feedback, it's the curse of wanting to be a good student, wanting to be a good listener, wanting to be a good actor. Sometimes you're like, oh, yes, I already know what you're saying and I can take it. I'm going to take the note and I'm going to move on with it. Hold on, you're not actually fully taking it in yet. So I try to count to 3. I'm not always successful, but I try to slow down my brain a little bit so that I can actually receive the information rather than think I'm receiving it.
Yeah.
Let it sink in for a sec.
That's honesty with yourself. That's a good gauge to have.
Yeah. And I think allowing it to, that also allows it to be more collaborative. I pride myself on being a collaborative artist. It's funny because I was always told in undergrad, especially, I got a BFA in acting and then was in New York working as an actor for 4 years. And then I went to grad school. I actually only auditioned for graduate school because I was feeling frustrated and like maybe I wanted to shift gears. I was getting into rooms, but I wasn't really succeeding. And I felt like my toolbox was a little dull. Like I was like, I think I have the tools, but they're not quite performing at the level I want them to, or I'm not maybe as confident as I'd like to be in them. That's also part of it. Maybe I'm just actually, it's a mental game. And so then my boyfriend at the time, now husband, suggested, why don't you just audition for grad school? And I was like, but then everyone will think I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And
that just hit me in the heart. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, if I tell people I'm auditioning for grad school, they'll think I'm not succeeding, which is stupid. But, because also, who cares? But he was like, what if you don't tell anyone that you're auditioning for graduate school? What if you don't tell anyone, which is not a thing I do. I tell like the postal service person what I'm up to.
Beautiful.
And she tells me. But I think he was like, what if you try this really radical thing where you don't let everybody know your business? And then if it doesn't go your way or you don't enjoy it or it doesn't happen, then you don't have to tell people that it didn't happen for you. You don't have to post about it on the internet and let people know that you're like going through this thing. And I was like, you're so right. And I told a friend and he knew about it and I had a coach, but I didn't really tell anybody else. Nobody really knew. And so then I ended up doing this grad school process, and I ended up getting in, and it ended up coinciding with the pandemic because I auditioned in winter of 2020. And then I ended up getting into Brown off the wait list while I was in lockdown. So then it all just fell together, and I was like, I guess I'm going.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And because at the time that program, which is now on a sort of indefinite pause, unfortunately, Fund the Arts, but it was a tuition-free program, and I was like, this is the time for me to go to this.
Structure during the unstructured time? Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was a long-winded way of me circling back to saying that rooms I'm in, people always would tell me, you're so contemporary. You're very contemporary. You'll always do like contemporary new works, new stuff, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah. And that is definitely what I love. That's a cornerstone of my work. But the work I've done professionally has been quite like pretty classical, Ibsen and Williams and Shakespeare and a lot of things like that. And I've done some contemporary work in between, but most of it's been in workshops. I love that kind of work because I feel like I shine when I'm able to collaborate, especially on a new character or on a new voice in a piece. I love working with playwrights. I love working with directors. And so I think also taking a moment to listen allows me to be a better collaborator, allows me to temperature check on where the other artists are at. Because also when you're entering into specifically a new play space, which I love to be a part of, you're also entering into somebody's mind and somebody's baby, somebody's thing that they're allowing you to be a part of. And sometimes that's really scary. Just like it's scary to put your acting in front of somebody. It's scary to put your writing in front of somebody. And we're all a little neurotic as artists. I always tell myself nobody's thinking about me as much as I am thinking about me.
Correct. Yes, always true.
And so that's what I think about when I'm like, oh, the audience is judging me. No, they're not. They might be. And if they are, then I don't really want their opinion. If it's coming from a place of malice, I want their opinion.
Yes, of course.
I think in spaces like that, I'm always interested in listening to temperature check on where people want the collaboration to. Oh, do you want me to give you feedback on how this dialogue feels in my mouth? Or would you rather me work with what's on the page and try to work through that as is so that we can learn from there? There's always a different way in.
Where did the collaboration attunement come from?
I always wanted to go to programs as a actor that like just put me through the machine to be a great actor. And I always ended up both in undergrad and in graduate programs that were far more interested in interdisciplinary thinkers and artists, and went to an undergrad program that did a ton of theater history and a ton of movement, physical theater. That always wasn't what I loved, but ultimately was nourishing for me. And the same was true of my graduate program. We had to do playwriting, we had to do directing classes, we had to do all these things that I was like, why am I not in a program that just teaches me how to be the best actor possible?
Yeah.
That wasn't the path for me. And so I think that actually what it ended up doing is making me a better thinker and a more caring collaborator. Because I think I have some muscles that are strengthened to not just act, but also to think, to write, to collaborate. And you got to check yourself sometimes. I'm like, that's not my job. Let me take a step back because that's not, but so it's like knowing when to utilize those muscles. And also the thing I was going to say about emailing too is it's the same thing as like knowing when to reach out. Because that's another thing is like people get inundated with emails and things. And so make sure you're shooting your shot not every 5 minutes. Make sure you're being really honest with yourself about, is this the right project for me? Or do I just want to be a part of a project? Is this a thing that I really feel in my heart for many reasons, or at least several reasons, that I should be a part of? Or is it just because I really want to be in a play? Or I really want to work with this director, or I really want to work with this casting person? Or is it because I think this is the right project for me right now? Because, the girl who cried wolf, you don't want to be reaching out too often that people think you're disingenuous.
Correct.
It's like anything, like collaborating, like networking, like reaching out, like auditioning. It's picking your battles.
And knowing where you fit after listening.
Yeah. Because we all want to believe we can do anything and play any role and do anything. And probably we could, but we don't live in a vacuum. We're working with other actors. We're working with other artists. And so knowing where you fit and fine tuning. That's why I think it's really important to watch theater, watch TV, read books, take in different mediums of storytelling, dance, music, albums, photography, sculpture, things that open your mind to the kind of stories that are around us that are maybe just not just linear theater, TV, film scripts, because it helps you think about the kind of stories you want to tell and also what you're good at telling.
Don't you also find, too, that the things that you generally become interested in, you start to see reflected in the world around you?
Definitely. I think we attract what we want to see. I find that the universe has a funny way of putting those stories in your path. The role I did this summer at Williamstown, openly and pretty open, not quite openly, but Tennessee, we see through you. It was like a very gay prisoner named Queen who had syphilis and is like totally feminine and totally effeminate and constantly looking for their manicure set.
Love.
And has all these monologues about, I used to be beautiful. I used to have beautiful hair, beautiful teeth, blah, blah, blah. Look at me now. And it was so interesting. I always would lament about, like the lack of queer history and the lack of, and then this role came across my plate that I didn't even know existed in a very little known Tennessee Williams play called Not About Nightingales. So it's like that kind of work that I was so interested in, queer archival work and queer history. And then to suddenly have this role that I didn't know existed in a classical theater context in such a way, it sort of reminds me of Tom and Glass Menagerie. There's these, you see reflections of it in later, more popular plays, Brick, etc. But the way Blanche talks about her first husband in Streetcar, these things. But then to see really strong glimmers of it in this early play, and then to get to bring voice to it was really formative.
You absolutely need to go to the MoMA right now. There's an exhibition on display.
I've heard of this.
It was phenomenal. I'm going to butcher the artist's name, so I'm just going to put it in the show notes instead of trying to say it here. My fiance, my best friend, and I went, and I was saying to my best friend, I was like, what's so crazy
is it a photo exhibit?
Photo exhibit,
yeah. That's what I thought. Okay.
And I was like, I said, you have these arguments with these right-winged nuts. Sorry for...
No, period.
I don't know how
Speak on it.
You have these conversations where they're like, pronouns, these things never happened. They never used to be here.
I mean, the universal friend is like a very early 1800s, I believe.
Yes.
Example of a non-binary writer who adopted, it was a Quaker who adopted, there's all sorts of things.
These things have been around forever. They've just been hidden for forever. And now
erased. A lot of it too.
Absolutely erased. I'm glad that you got to speak to that because that's a really important...
Yeah. That work attracts to you when you're interested in certain things and when you listen to the world around you.
Like seeing those breakdowns now must have a personal connection to this. I'm sad they have to say that, but I would hope that as the artist, if you are wanting to go in for that, you want to tell that story because something in you needs to have that come out. Like these acts of vulnerability through art, you are putting vulnerability on display for others to learn about themselves, but I hope that you're learning about yourself in the meantime too.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've never done a role that you don't take something away from.
No, certainly not. And doing this play, Richard II, now as a queer person, as a young person, as an actor, I was with a lot of my own idiosyncrasies. I was told that those weren't always welcome in classical theater. Or how can you flatten those out or iron those out in order to honor the text? And that's why I always was against classical text, against Shakespeare. And so to get to do that in a very queer production with an amazing queer leading man like Michael Urie, and to get to make that character my own has helped to heal some of that sort of feelings of inadequacies and feeling, I shouldn't do classical work because I'm not right for it. Or I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm not enough this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Thinking something doesn't have value for it will determine that there will be no value in something for you. I'm very passionate about creative thinking because I love the stretchiness. I like you. I feel like I'm looking in a mirror when you say about undergrad and grad school.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm like, I'm sorry, we're doing devised with what sound and I'm doing what on the floor.
Of course.
And who's putting what on my face?
I was like, no, can't I just be in a play?
And I'm like, but that stretchy part was so valuable for me because it taught me more about where I truly feel resonant in. And it also taught me that even though I can do a lot of these things, I don't necessarily have to if I don't want to.
Yeah.
But to do one thing is to know the opposite of it too. And so I think it's a good scale to play on.
Yeah. I think that's also what graduate school taught me, is that I was so concerned before that of being everything for anyone that I ended up smoothing myself out to being not anything for anyone. I was so I could be anybody you want me to be. And I look back on that and I'm I actually was totally non-specific. And the things that make me unique, the intersectionalities of my sexuality, gender, race, ethnicity, actually don't make me hard to pin down. It actually makes me an asset.
When did you leave student mode and get into yourself as a professional outside of student mode?
Gosh, I think it was probably when I was doing Enemy of the People on Broadway. I think it was in the midst of that.
Because it was so much and you had to, or because you're oh, now it feels like it?
It was definitely a little bit of giving myself permission to be I'm a professional actor. Even though I'd had my equity card for years before that and worked, it was an amazing actor, Bill Buell, who's a Broadway veteran who I did the show with, said to me one night, it was right on opening night, I think, and he looked at me in the wings and he said, we could close tomorrow. We won't because we're a hit, but we could close tomorrow and you still would be a Broadway actor. Nobody can ever take that away from you. And Broadway's not the end all be all, but for me in that moment, it was a goal achieved. And it was a childhood goal achieved. I made a poster when I was like 11 years old that my mother always reminds me of, that in big like bubble sticker letters said Broadway ... It's where I'm going, with like clip art and pictures that got off Google in 2005 to like of like Hairspray and the Winter Garden and
oh my God,
things. And
I hope she still has that.
it's somewhere in the basement, I'm sure. So it was a dream achieved. I think in that moment when he said that to me, he was like, you're joining us, here. And so I think I was not only those, beware the worship of false idols. Those accolades only mean what they mean, and only, I think, really add up to like how like kind and generous you are ultimately, no matter what you achieve. But I think it did, it started to get me in the mode of like, all right, I need to like level up my belief in myself, because there's also this thing of you have to believe like imposter syndrome is sort of where I'm going with this, is like you have to believe you're very special for the entire world to rally around lying to you. That you were meant to be here and that you are good and everyone's lying to you and actually you're bad and talented and it's a fluke. I had a therapist once who was like, you must be extremely special that the whole world and everyone you've worked with and everyone who's like believed in you is lying to you. You must be really special. And I was like, oh my God. That's a crazy thing to think, okay, the whole world has decided that you're like special and safe enough that we're going to lie to you and tell you're good when really you're a hack. And I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably just believe the things I'm seeing and the incremental progress that I'm achieving. And maybe I should just shut up and believe the world.
Yeah, the evidence around you, like what's like blatantly in front of you.
Yeah, and not just think that everyone's lying to me.
Because it's hard to pick it up, because then subconsciously you're like, but what if I drop it? What if I lose it?
Yeah.
And if I don't take on this identity, then I can't lose. And it's
and
like,
what if it doesn't come to fruition in the way that I really want it to?
yeah. And you just did that exercise. What if? Okay, fine. What if it doesn't? Then what? You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Because then what? Enemy of the People casting went out and you get an audition. Then what? You go figure yours out.
Yeah. And then I booked Broadway and I was like, what if I never book a show again? And I was like, okay. And then I did. And then I was like, okay, what if I never... There's always an actor I worked with when I was 20 at Williamstown when I was an apprentice said to me, an older actor said to me, there will always be a new hoop to jump through. You think you're climbing this ladder and you're going to get to where you want to be, but there's always a new hoop to reach, to jump into. There will always be something that you're not quite grasping, that you're a job or a thing or an accolade or whatever that you're not quite getting. And I think you can ask pretty much any actor that, from the highest of heights. I'm sure there's a few at the top that can do whatever they want, and that's true. But for the most part, everybody's reaching towards something and having days where they're really feeling like they're not achieving it. So knowing that that is just part of it.
That is part of it. I've noticed that narrative actually rise to the top quite a bit more recently amongst really prolific artists. I think of Issa Rae. I think of Tom Hanks. People like that have talked about, yeah, I'm really afraid I'm never going to work again.
Yeah.
It actually, hearing that kind of gave me the permission to be like, oh, okay, so everyone thinks that? Okay, cool. So everyone's worried that tomorrow this all stops.
Yep.
Got it. Cool. So one, we're never going to be able to combat that. Two, but how are we if everyone deals with it at whatever?
Yeah, because we do deal with it. And I think I find great solace in acknowledging that like everyone is going through this in some way, shape, or form.
That everyone has imposter syndrome?
Yeah, and that everyone is working in spite of it. And some people, it eats you alive. You have to be really careful. Don't let it kill your spirit. Don't let the no's, don't let I've had plenty of emails unanswered. Don't let those, and things have a way of coming back around. I think that's also what I mean by work begets work, incremental progress, these sort of phrases that have been taught to me by mentors and people in my life and colleagues, is just keep track of the puzzle pieces that are slowly coming together and the forest through the trees, and that things have a way of coming back around when the time is right. Timing is often such a big part of it. I mean, that the agent I spoke about not signing me in the writer's strike signed me 2.5 years later.
Yeah, the timing has to be right.
Yeah, and I was, they hate me, never mind. They did all that time, just took some time.
For it to be right.
Yeah, and that can be frustrating.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't mean that it's a reflection of you or a reflection of something you're not going to achieve a little bit later.
There's something powerful in assuming that it's not about you.
Yeah, or assuming that it's nothing you did wrong.
You're not in trouble.
Yeah.
Is that a millennial thing?
Definitely.
I think that is.
I'm sure it is.
I'm sure someone said
something
I'm sure
that. Yeah. I mean, I think it's...
At some point.
Yeah, because nobody, I think, wants to feel like they're unaware of how they're being perceived.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes an overcorrection of that it's because of something I lack that it's not happening for me. And sometimes it's just like there's a million, that's what I mean when I'm like, nobody's thinking about me as much as I am thinking about me. There are a million things happening behind the scenes that have nothing to do with me and have to do with the global economy and like somebody's coworker and somebody's life and some project from 6 years ago that has nothing to do with me. It's not my business.
I learned that in my exposure to becoming a producer.
Yeah.
Where I would just tell my friends after in a download where I'm like, no one thought of that today. I guarantee you. Like, you're calling me spinning out about this one thing you said. I guarantee you, if that was this morning, the person on set genuinely doesn't remember it.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's okay. I think it's best to assume that people want you to succeed, that people want to do well.
Assuming best intentions, yeah.
Assume best intentions until you have a reason not to.
Yeah.
You're there for the best intentions.
Yep. And sometimes we make mistakes, intent versus impact. When you feel like your impact is negative versus your intent, make amends, talk about it, communicate. Yeah. And I also think that's too, as somebody, I'm often like, oh, I feel like I screwed up. Why don't you mention it? But then it's the fear of, oh, then they're going to say, yeah, you did mess up. Isn't that better to know?
Yeah, better than to know. And then also to say, okay, so how can I fix that?
Yeah, how can I make amends? Our working relationship can be strong and open and honest.
Has working you taught you this?
Oh gosh, I think it's a bit of a mix. I think I'm lucky to be surrounded by like friends and family and loved ones who take me to task when I fall short, who are like, you hurt me. You did this thing, you said this thing, or like I said, my brain moves really fast. So sometimes I say things off the cuff or flippantly that later someone's, that was hurtful. And I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't mean it like that at all. So I think in my personal life, I have pretty like really open, honest. I always say I don't have any friends I can't fight with.
That's beautiful.
I don't have any close friends I can't like go to the mat with. And I think that has also taught me like how to hold myself accountable, hopefully, in professional environments. And yeah, be open and honest and communicative. And I had negative experiences in grad school and in the past of being in working environments where I watched people work in a way that I was like, that is not how I want to conduct myself. Watched older artists work in ways that I was like, that's not how I will work. That's not how I will hope to treat people. That's not how I will hope to communicate with folks. I want to do something else. And so I think also learning by example, learning by not example.
You're a critical listener and you're also a critical observer.
I think I learn by doing too, which is, I'm a big like hands-on learner.
Do you think that the artist needs to get their craft in line first or their personal life in line first?
I think you need to do both.
Yes.
And I think they can come at different times.
Ooh, okay.
I think it depends on the person. I think by craft, you mean like training, et cetera. Or sorry, I mean
like your artistry in general.
Yeah. I think they're so intertwined. I think you can't have one without the other. You can get your personal in line without the craft, but you might not be an actor or an artist professionally in the way you want to be, maybe. And I think that I've watched folks whose career is at an all-time rise confide in me that they're working through the personal and really coming apart at the seams. So they do both at the same time. And sometimes the people who are on the most like meteoric rise are also like going home to a life that they feel like is in shambles. And so you can do both. You might crash out if you don't get your personal self in line.
One always reflects the other.
Yeah. I think so. And I think you can totally get your craft in line and be working at the top of your game and be unraveling. I think that's not sustainable. I've certainly had that too, where I'm like having a great time, but I'm not taking care of myself mentally, emotionally. I'm letting my search for a therapist or my search for whatever go to the wayside in pursuit of me working, knowing when to turn that card around.
And know when to face the other side.
Yeah, knowing when you need to like take a breath. Yeah.
Are you good at doing that?
I'm very bad at relaxing, very bad at, or I'm not so great at resting. I'm a very social person, so I like to see people after the show. I like to hang out. I like to do things. And sometimes I'm like, you can't do my FOMO. I have to find the opposite, which Michael Urie says JOMO, the joy of missing out. I have JOMO. I have the joy of missing out, which is when I'm like, let me stay home. And I'm trying, I haven't quite channeled that. The streets, they still call to me. My friends still call to me, but yeah, knowing when to like, okay, tonight's the night that I'm going to go home and get 11 hours of sleep.
And sometimes there's also nights for celebration.
Yeah.
And you've earned those just as much. When I get in bed and I know I'm missing out on something intentionally, I'll lay there and be like, everyone else is out and I'm in bed.
I need to do that.
Yeah, because I'm like, look at me. But okay, back to the initial question of measuring backwards.
Please.
What are the themes? They don't have to be like, I did A, B, C, D. What are the themes in which you observe looking at all past versions of David and being like, he was onto something?
Like the threads, the interconnecting threads.
Yeah, what worked? With your 2020 hindsight, what were the smart moves you did?
I think leaning into the artists that excite me, that I want to work with. I think like following the people who are doing the things that I want to do, going to see their work. I think that's a big thing. People are always like, I want to work with this person. I'm like, are you like a disciple of supporting and viewing their work? Did you buy their play? It can be really inaccessible to see theater. So there's always a way in. Did you reach out to them? Is there a way I can get an affordable ticket? Is there an invited dress? Even if you don't have the means to see the show, are you trying to see it and support their work because you want to be a part of it? So I think I try to put my time where my mouth is when it comes to showing up to see the work of the artists that I claim to want to work with and keeping track of them, reaching out, communication, quality time and effort to keep in touch with people. I think those are threads, and I think trying to be kind, give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm not always perfect at it all, but yeah, I think those are some of the threads, and never stop learning, to be like a student of the world. I think a continual thread in my work is to always try to have fun, to bring a sense of fun into the space, even when the work is serious, even when the work is hard, trying to bring a sense of play to the work.
That allows for a lot of grace. And I love what you say about follow work. Ask questions. See where you can go, be present. What I say to clients a lot is, how are you practicing being in the place you say you want to be?
Right.
It's like Ariel. You have to observe part of your world.
Like, who? Yes. The Little Mermaid herself.
The Little Mermaid herself. Observe and understand the intricacies of the world that you want to be in.
Yeah.
I used to fight back on this so much because I have such a hard time reading, and they're like, you have to read the whole play, read the whole canon. And I used to push back on it. It's true. Those little tiny pieces of information are going to play into how I believe I fit and make this world better.
Yes.
So if you aren't personally being a part of it already, how do you expect to be part of the eventual story?
Well, it's the same thing of like you do your prep work before an audition. I think it's the same thing of doing your prep work before like wanting to collaborate with someone.
Art looks so different now. It's so many different mediums. It's not just doing the show. It's doing press for the show. It's showing up to the events. It's meeting with the other people.
And there's less work overall, which is hard.
Less work overall. So why would you not make it matter the absolute most? Going to those things makes you act like you belong in the space already. So all of it is a practice of what you're trying to get.
It teaches you how to be in community with the people that you want to be around. And it's not about being false. It's not about acting like you belong. I guess it's a little bit of that fake it till you make it, but I think it's actually just like learning how to be in spaces and find within yourself the comfort of being a part of the world that you so desperately want to be in, so that also you're not gripping it so tightly.
I know, it's interest and curiosity, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
it's
loosely
thing.
The goal and the dream and the art and the thing. It's like holding it loosely so that if it does momentarily slip out of your hands, it's not the end of the world and you're not paralyzed with fear, which Lord knows I don't always accomplish. But yeah, it's like, how can you hold on loosely but don't let go, as the song goes?
Speaking of that, what spaces are you enjoying the most right now being in?
Oh, I love being in like the dressing rooms with my castmates and like laughing and joking around and having fun. I love those spaces. I love hanging out in the green room with our crew and our actors. Those in-between moments are really fun. And I also am enjoying on off days recently, especially. I've done a couple of readings and new works. I just did an amazing play produced by a company 4x4, and they do these new works like every couple weeks. And it was a play by Gage Tarleton, directed by Moses Garcia, that was with like Taylor Trench and Cole Doman and Christian Coulson and Gabby Karuba and like a bunch of fun actors. And being in spaces like that allow me to step out of the play I'm doing 7 or 8 times a week, but still allow me to flex those fun muscles, but in a different direction. I enjoy that. I did an amazing new workshop with Lindsay Ferrantino and Michael Arden that we did of this amazing play that Michaela Diamond led, and being a small part of that ensemble of amazing actors on my day off, even when I was tired, even when I was like, why did I agree to do this? When I was like barely phonating until we got to the performance, as I was like in the bathroom, like, me. But like just sitting there, and somebody said to me, what a gift it is to be able to be tired from the work that I once begged for. And I always put that aside with we should also be paid more. Actors and artists and writers and folks and
Far
creatives
more.
should be paid for those dreams. But we can hold multiple truths at once. And that is also so true. What a gift it is to be tired from the work that I once crossed my fingers for.
Workshops too.
Yeah.
Workshops, I don't know how to say other than you learn so much. Your voice is a part of that world that's being created.
Mm-hmm.
I have been part of so many workshops and I love workshops. And usually when someone says a workshop, I'm like, I think to myself, okay, I'm gonna come back to them in 3 years to see where that is.
Yeah.
Like I went to go see Queens the other night. Two of my friends, it was
amazing.
fabulous.
Some of the best work I've seen on stage. Martina is one of our most prolific playwrights of our time that we are watching, and to get to see her work.
I want her on this podcast.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And the work that Tripp did with that play, and oh my gosh, Nicole, and all those amazing, and Marin, all these amazing actors. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Andrea is in that play. She's been on this podcast
Yes.
before. I think she redefines talent for me every single time I see her perform. But these workshops that you get to be a part of and you follow, and sometimes you don't get cast in them and sometimes you do, but it's always so clear to me in a piece that I'll afterwards talk to the actors and be like, how long was this in development for? And I can usually tell, and I'm like, okay, and I can tell who's been with it since the beginning because it's literally made for your voice.
There's a piece, no spoilers, but there's a piece that I've been a part of working with like some amazing writers and musicians and an amazing director that we've been workshopping for 2 years almost at this point. And I think it's going to happen. And it's the kind of part I would like dream to do. And it's this thing that I'm just like, okay, holding loosely, slowly following these projects that excite you and light you on fire and holding out for them. And knowing that even if they don't happen, they still shaped you. They still, or if you don't end up being the artist that goes with it, you're still a part of it. And it's still so valuable to your journey.
And your work in that room matters. Your time in that matters. And sometimes it's easier to write something off as non-valuable when it doesn't equate to dollars.
Oh gosh, yeah. Or a credit or something that people can see you in. And
Correct. And really, when I was at MoMA the other day, I was thinking to myself, wow, like this piece cost this much. It's interesting that someone does not spend this amount of money and then lose that amount of money. The money just moves into the value of this piece. That's what art is. Art just retains value, especially for an up and coming artist too. And so I'm like, okay, so value does look different to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. Because you have some people who'd be like, why the fuck would you spend that money on that thing? And other people who are like, wow, this piece of art brings me so much joy. I'm so glad it's here.
yeah.
It's just value in a different form. So you can take whatever it is you want from a workshop or from even an audition.
Even a bad audition or what you perceive, even one that you're like, oof. I've had auditions that I walked out of and I'm like, ooh, that was tough. And then I, months later, get a different call from that same casting director or director. You know, it doesn't mean the end of your life.
It doesn't. I think very few things really mean, chill.
Yeah.
People forget.
People forget. They don't forget the way you treat them, though. And they don't forget the way you conduct yourself. And so I think that's what matters.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back a second. Yeah, I think those people aren't often thinking about those bad auditions. It's the way we treat people, the way we conduct ourselves in those rooms that matter more than having an off day or not being right for a role.
You're allowed to be human. When something doesn't fit, that's just as much information to the casting director as if something did fit.
Yeah, it gets you closer to like where you do fit.
Exactly. So tell listeners how to follow along with you, where to find you.
Yeah,
all
you
those
can
things.
you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at David_Merten_. And I have a website. I'm around. Yeah, send me an email. Say hi to me.
But don't abuse that. Don't do that too much.
Just kidding. No, not me. You can email me whenever. Yeah. I'm around.
Thank you so much for coming on. And I can't wait to see you in Richard too.
Thanks. What a gift to be able to talk about acting for a bit.
I know. I love it. Thank you. And that's the latest. I'm honored to have been part of your thinking sphere today. Feel free to share, like, and subscribe on this platform or follow and participate on any of my social media platforms. If this practice intrigues you as much as it does me, then join us in the Me3 community, where we will work directly and you will curate a mindful method of thinking to define your own creative conscious. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of Authenticated. I love that you're here.